Hi guys, welcome back to A Page in the Chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige and it is finally time for my August wrap up. This year is just going so quickly. I can't get over how quickly time moves as an adult. Like, it's just, you blink and multiple months have gone by. It's insane. Alas, summer is pretty much over now. Not that England ever really acted like it was summer, and it's time to go through all the books that I read in August. I actually only finished 5 books in the month of August, even though I think I started probably about 12. There were 7 books in my August TBR, but after filming that I then added 3 more books, so there ended up being 10 books, and so I only read half of them. I was isolating away from home, I didn't have access to any of my books, so I just didn't really read them. I started things, I didn't read much. It was a mixture of getting really addicted to The Sims and actually having COVID, which made me feel like crap, and so I didn't read. But September is going to be a better month, and I did read some really good books in August, so let's talk about them. If you guys like what you have seen so far and you enjoy wrap-ups and TBRs, then why not hit that big red subscribe button down below and stay tuned for future content. I upload twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there is no shortage of bookish content here. Why not subscribe? And now, let's get into the 5 books. So the first book that I read in the month of August was Olive by Gannon. I ended up giving this 5 stars, and it will probably be on my top 10 books of the year at the end of the year, just because this book made me think so much. So this follows our main character Olive, and her best friends have been super close ever since school. They all went to the same uni, they all lived together during uni, and they're all really close. Except now they're kind of entering their 30s, some of them have kids, some of them are thinking about having kids, and Olive really doesn't relate to any of them, and she's pretty sure that she actually doesn't want kids, or she doesn't know how she feels about kids, and it's very much about how she is navigating her friendships with her friends when she wants something completely different from them, and everyone trying to still be friends when they're all like really judging each other's life choices. It's fantastic, and it's so well researched. It comes across as like a feature piece in a really fancy newspaper sometimes, like with just how researched it is. It's almost a work of non-fiction in parts. There were kind of 2 main things that I loved about this book. The first one was how honest it was. I think at times our main character Olive, and also her other friends as well, come across incredibly judgy. They are all looking down on each other's life choices, essentially. But I kind of loved that that was included, especially with the way it was included, because Olive would think something judgy or be really judgy and then kind of berate herself and feel really guilty about the fact that she'd done that, because these were her best friends and she didn't want to be judgy of their lifestyle. She was just insecure in her own decision about not having kids, and so I just loved that level of honesty, because whether we want to or not, we do judge people. It really made Olive seem like a much more real and relatable character, and it made her friendship group seem more real. And then the second thing that I absolutely loved about this book was how much it made me think. And honestly, I think my whole views of adulthood and womanhood have completely changed after reading this book, and I feel like it really took the pressure off of my 20s. Even though this book is very much centered around your 30s, it explores this narrative that society constructs that your 20s are for your career and succeeding, and you need to succeed in your 20s because in your 30s you settle down and you have children, and that adds a lot of pressure to your 20s to succeed. And this book really, by bringing that to light and really calling society out for that, just completely changed how I view aging and just everything, and I really needed this. So 5 stars. Loved it. This was the best book of the month by far. The next book that I read was This One Summer by Gillian and Mariko Tamaki. Mariko Tamaki is the author of Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, which is why I thought I would check this out. I believe in my TBR I described this as like a middle grade sapphic contemporary graphic novel. I don't know where I got sapphic from. It's not sapphic at all. It's about two young girls who are just best friends exploring this holiday town whilst our main character has a lot of stuff going on at home. This wasn't amazing. It kind of lacked the soul that Laura Dean had, and this just, there was nothing really to it. It was also ruder than I thought it was gonna be. I don't know, I really didn't love this. It was just missing something. There wasn't a huge plot line, which I guess is fine because there isn't a huge plot line with Laura Dean, but it's structured in the fact that it's about a breakup, whereas this doesn't have a main plot point like that. It is literally just two best friends kind of doing middle grade summer activities, like watching horror movies that are far too old for them and stuff like that. And whilst the experience of reading it wasn't that bad, I just think this was a bit of a miss, and I don't know if I would really pick up any more that were written about these characters. I didn't really like them. It was just really missing the heart that Laura Dean had. Something didn't quite connect with this book. So I then picked up Alex Approximately by Joan Bennett because it was August. I wanted to get through the last of the YA contemporaries on my TBR. The only note that I wrote for this book in my thoughts on the books that I read is Justice for Sharks in big capital letters, and yeah, I stand by that. I don't want to spoil anything, and whilst this wouldn't be a huge spoiler, I'm just not gonna say it at all. But basically, the way sharks are characterised and constructed in this novel is just demonstrates a massive lack of research by Jen Bennett, and I don't love that, because justice for sharks, and this is just not how sharks behave. So this follows our main character Bailey, and she has been talking anonymously with this guy on a movie forum, and they have been getting really close, and he lives in the town where her dad lives. And so this summer she decides to move in with her dad, but she doesn't tell this guy she's been talking to that she's moving there, and she gets a job at a local tourist attraction and ends up making friends and meeting new guys and being very conflicted about what she should do in this situation. I will say this book is entirely predictable. I didn't even have to start reading it to know what was going to happen at the end. Honestly, whilst I had a lot of fun with this book, I would read it again. I would recommend it. It is a fluffy YA contemporary that's fun to read. It does what it says on the tin. It's just nothing special. This is not gonna be a book that I rave about. It was just a very middle of the road YA contemporary. Very good fun. I would recommend it if you are looking for a YA contemporary. This is about as fluffy as it gets. It just didn't really strike me as anything new, anything innovative, or just really anything special. Then the next book that I read before I had to isolate was Isla and the Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins. This follows Josh and Isla, who we meet in Anna and the French Kiss, and this follows their love story in their final year at SOAP, the School of America in Paris. Somewhere that has the exact same setting as Anna and the French Kiss. This is really missing that cozy atmosphere that Anna and the French Kiss had. I don't quite know what didn't happen with this book that happened with that one. With Lola and the Boy Next Door, that makes sense. That's a completely different setting. To be honest, I don't really believe that Lola should be considered a part of this series. I think this should have been a duology of Anna and the French Kiss, and then we follow Josh and Isla after the characters in Anna and the French Kiss have graduated. Lola doesn't need to be in this world at all. She doesn't fit in with it. This is so much better than Lola and the Boy Next Door. I do really enjoy this, and honestly I would recommend just skipping Lola and the Boy Next Door and reading this as a duology, and I do recommend reading this. It's just somehow, even though it's set in exactly the same place and it is that setting of SOAP that makes Anna and the French Kiss such a standout novel for me, this is just somehow missing that feeling even though it's the same. I also do think that the timeline of Josh and Isla's relationship is so unique to most romance novels. It doesn't follow that same structure of how romance novels typically are at all, and I respect that, and I think it's handled well. I definitely enjoyed this more than Lola and the Boy Next Door. I do just think that it should have been a duology rather than a trilogy. And then the final book that I read this month was A Half-Baked Idea by Olivia Potts. This was the Books and Me book club pick, which is run by Rachel. I talk about this book club and Rachel all the time, so I'm sure you already know who I'm referring to. The book club has 1 month fiction, 1 month non-fiction, etc, etc, which is kind of why I really enjoy this book club, because I don't think many book clubs include non-fiction. It was very fun having a non-fiction to read, however, not gonna be my favourite, and I think it was kind of a shared view in the Discord that this book was not as good as expected. So this is Olivia Potts' memoir following how her mum's death kind of forced her into this massive change of career, and how learning to bake and cooking and baking and pastry in general just kind of really helped pull her out of her grief and reformat her life. And I think the reasons I didn't like this were entirely personal to my own circumstances. A, I just didn't relate really to anything she was going through. Two, I'd say 2/3 of this book is just Olivia Potts ranting on and on about how horrible working in the criminal justice system is, because she was originally a barrister, and just going through like every horrible anxious emotion that she was feeling during that time, which then made me feel very anxious because I was isolating at this point, so my anxiety was kind of on the rocks anyway. I also was kind of considering working in the criminal justice system, and I was under no illusions about what it would be like I knew it wasn't going to be all sunshine and rainbows, but to just read 2/3 of a book of someone hating on it for so long really then made me doubt all of my choices. And that is obviously something entirely personal to me, but it just did massively impact my enjoyment of this book. And then when we finally get to her learning how to bake, that's when this book really started to shine for me. It's quite repetitive, but I did really enjoy learning about the baking, because the pastry and the baking was kind of what drew me to this book in the first place. It seemed really cozy and great. So I did kind of enjoy the last third. The only issue is I feel like this book ended where it kind of should have been the middle. I wanted to know what she did with the baking. I wanted more of what baking and this new career was going to be like, and like it's kind of dropped in at the end what she does after. It's not really explored in any depth, so rather than having most of the book be about her wanting to leave her career and then the final bit being about her actually learning how to do that, I would have much preferred it be a little bit about wanting to leave her career and then 2/3 of the book be about going to pastry school and then forming a career with that afterwards. It stopped just as it was getting to the good bit for me. Maybe she wants to do another book, maybe that's the plan, I don't know. The book was just too much of the stuff that I wasn't interested in rather than the stuff that I was. I gave this the benefit of the doubt on Storygraph, and I gave it a 3.25 star. On Goodreads, obviously this was just rounded down to a 3 star. I'm now doubting if it even really deserved a 3 star. My hindsight review would be lower than what I originally gave it, so quite conflicted by this one. And so here are the 5 books that I read in August. It was not a great reading month for me. I am now extremely behind on my reading challenge for this year. I just don't think I'm gonna hit 110 books. I don't see how I can pull this back, but we will try. Thing is, to me this was a really bad reading month because I didn't read nearly as much as I wanted to, and I feel very slumpy now because I had so long not reading when I didn't have access to books, or I just really didn't feel like reading, that now I'm really struggling to start again. I just have to ride the wave, try and pull myself out of it. So this feels like a very bad month, but I just have to remember that 5 books is a perfectly fine amount to read. I was still reading, I am like still reading now, just because this is lower than the amount that I've read the rest of the summer. 5 books is still a hell of a lot more than I was reading for those 3 months at the beginning of the year when I didn't read anything. It's still an improvement from then. Thank you guys very much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books, what you think of them. There's not a huge selection to choose from in terms of thoughts, but what can you do? This is what I read. If you guys have actually made it this far, then like wow, I'm impressed. Thank you. But why not hit that big red subscribe button down below? Because as I said, there is absolutely no shortage of bookish content here, and there are regular TBRs and wrap-ups if you enjoy this sort of content. I hope that you guys have a fantastic week. I hope you enjoy everything you are reading and there are no reading slumps in your future, and I will see you for my next video. Bye guys.